Good evening and welcome to Felcraft. I'm Hammy, and in our Hearthstone news update, we're getting back into the Hearthstone half hour. I've been streaming a lot more, so we're getting YouTube going again. We have some splendid, some interesting, some very controversial, perhaps for some people, news for you. Not a few hours ago, barely even 2 hours ago, over on the main Hearthstone blog, we had a little bit of news. And given that it's the 2nd of February 2016, Hearthstone have announced various things to do with a new way to play, the blog was entitled. Now I'm going to summarise this for you. If you're on YouTube, look at the time codes below, you can skip to various pieces, but 3 things. 1, new game modes. 2, changes to classic and basic cards incoming, as well as tweaks of other cards. And then 3, to cater for the new game modes and all of this, new deck slots. So new deck slots might be enough for some of you. You can totally scroll down to the bottom in YouTube, click the time code, go and have a look at the new deck slots bit. But we're going to go through it piece by piece. So this is going to be video number 1, a quick roundup of all of this fantastic news, a few quick thoughts as to what it might mean for competitive Hearthstone and the Hearthstone year ahead, and the health of Hearthstone as a future game. And we will jump into other videos examining potential format changes, card changes, deck changes and things later. So this video number 1, a quick roundup of the news. But if you want to see other videos, have a look at the top or subscribe to the channel. Righty, so this image here is a kraken. Fans of Pirates of the Caribbean, or generally squiddy, watery, coelacanth based type things might recognise. New game formats are coming to Hearthstone. Now this squid represents the year of the kraken, the season of the kraken. Each yearly season, or each year, is going to be named after a particular mythic beast or animal. Now, to step in, I'll quickly summarise the changes and then explain it a bit in wider card game context. So there are 2 formats now. Or there will be 2 formats. Now, the first format, or the change that they're making, is that they're introducing a format called Standard. So you're now going to have 2 formats in Hearthstone. One of these is going to be called Standard format. The other of these is going to be called Wild. So Standard and Wild. Now, if you played other card games, I can deal with Wild first. Wild will include all Hearthstone cards ever released ever. Simple. That's the first one. So you will have Wild format. Now, what can you do in Wild format? We'll explain that in a little bit once we've explained Standard. But there you go. There's Wild format. A lot of people know Wild as being unlimited. Big hi to Dante, Ginger, Clavskis, PG, everyone else joining. We're, of course, live, twitch.tv/FelcraftCasts. So that's Wild. Now, if we then go and have a look at format number 2, this is Standard. And this is what people are going to be a little bit more interested in, because this is kind of quite a fundamental change to Hearthstone as a game. Now, in other card games, I've played Pokemon in the past, but if you played Magic, there are yearly rotations, or there are rotations of card pool, and these will happen sometimes every year and a half, sometimes a set amount of months. But you will have old sets of cards dropping out of the game and new sets of cards coming in. So to give you a quick summary of what Standard will be, Standard is Hearthstone's first shot at doing something like that. So let's jump on in and explain Standard and Wild. Standard format is only the most recently released Hearthstone cards. Dr. Evil, air quotation marks there for you. Now, it's the current calendar year and the previous calendar year, and then the basic and classic card sets as well. So if you think of your adventures and if you think of your expansions, it's the current calendar year, the previous calendar year, and then always basic and classic. The reason for having basic and classic is because Blizzard want a core set of cards that anyone, whether they're an old player or a new player, can be familiar with. And then also, if you've been away from the game for a while and you return, then you still know these core of cards. So that is Standard. So if we just have a look at this little image here, you can see we want to be playing Standard. You've got your big Play Standard button there, but you can also see that there's a deck crossed out there, and that's because it has cards in that aren't within Standard. So you've got your Play Standard button, and you can, of course, choose between casual and ranked there. So Standard. What does Standard constitute? The Blizzard reasons behind it, and I kind of agree with these for the long-term health of the game. A more dynamic and balanced metagame, because they'll be able to rotate cards in and out. It means that you don't have a huge, ever-growing card pool. Ben Brody, in his recent vlogs and things on the Hearthstone YouTube, has discussed game creep, power creep, and as a game gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you have more and more things interacting with each other, more and more card effects, in Hearthstone's case, interacting with each other, that become increasingly unmanageable. So being able to rotate card sets allows you to sort of have soft resets and try and rebalance, rechange the game, and do things a little bit differently. developers have more freedom designing new cards because they don't have to think about some old ones, and then it lets new players, more importantly, get involved without having to have a huge back card pool, and this is important for the health of a game as well. If a player's been playing the game for 5 years and I jump in new and I don't have those 5 years worth of cards, and all of those 5 years worth of cards are important in terms of being able to compete, then I kind of feel as though I'm at a disadvantage, and this has been covered by Ben Brody and other people. So for that reason, it is good. Standard, you can only play it in friendly challenges, ranked and casual. So Standard is the new Hearthstone competitive format when the new Spring 2016 expansion releases, and Blizzard have confirmed that in the blog. So until then, it's going to be business as usual. But from when the new expansion releases, the Hearthstone Championship Tour format is going to be Standard. So this is why if you like to play competitively, you need to get your head around Standard. But if you just want to play Hearthstone and have fun, you don't need to worry about it at all because there's Wild. So that's all good. Standard is not going to affect Arena, solo play, or adventures. So Arenas, solo play, and adventures are Wild. They include every card ever released ever, which is pretty cool. So now let's jump on to Wild. As I mentioned, Wild is everything, and you can see the Pew Pew deck here that was previously crossed out in Standard is now available, and you can see that's got a little border. We're going to zoom in on that as well. But Wild is pretty much everything. It's pretty much Hearthstone as it is at the moment. You can play with all of your kinds of craziness that you want to have a look at, which is really, really cool. And then, of course, as more and more cards get added, in other card games, this is very much what I would call unlimited format. So when I used to play Pokemon, there was unlimited. You could play with everything from the game's conception or beginning, which was absolutely crazy. There were really broken, unbalanced cards. Very often, unlimited format doesn't ban any cards or remove any cards in a paper TCG. So you get a lot of fun and cool options there. So that will be Hearthstone's Wild format. In terms of gameplay, nothing is changing for Wild. You'll be able to do quests and gold, rank up on the ladder. So remember that there is now a Wild ladder and there is now a Standard ladder. You can get card backs, you can get legend rank, you can use all of the cards you've made to build a Wild deck, say Blizzard in the blog. When you queue up for ranked or casual play with a Wild deck, you'll always be matched with other players who are using Wild decks. So you now have Standard ladder and Standard casual and Wild ladder and Wild casual. You will always be playing Standard against Standard or Wild against Wild. If we jump on just to our next little image down there, you can see what your Wild decks will look like. You can see you've got your little Wild Druid style, slightly little tree type Wild border. It's been overgrown by the wildness. So that is your sort of signal of Wild there. When Standard is introduced, you're going to be able to choose between Standard and Wild. For ranked play, you'll have a separate rank for each format. You can earn ranks and hit Legend of both Wild and Standard if you really want, but you're only going to be able to get rewards based on the highest rank you attained in one format or the other. So if you Legend in Wild and Legend in Standard, then you're not going to be able to get two sets of rewards. So you can just play what you fancy. Now, for you competitive, or for you more sort of, players who are more interested in sort of the bleeding edge, the really tight side of the game, this is an interesting piece. It's called Time for Reflection. Now, what this Time for Reflection is going to mean, they're going to be making some balance changes and taking this new year, taking the Standard format as an opportunity to reevaluate a number of cards in the basic and classic card sets, including class cards, and make some long considered adjustments. So, basic cards are going to be changed. Potentially classic cards are going to be changed. So anything in the basic set of cards when you start the game, and also anything potentially in the class card sets as well, potentially. So we could see Frostbolt getting a change. We could see Mind Control getting a change. Lots of big cards in Hearthstone that every player has access to could well be getting changed. So this will be very, very interesting. We can't quite theory craft new decks until we understand these basic changes, and indeed the classic card changes. So many cards may get tweaks. It'll be very, very interesting to see how they go. More information on which cards will be changed we're going to get in the next few months, or as we draw nearer to the arrival of the Standard format. So we're going to be hearing about this in the next few months. So lots of interesting news. But that is the sort of summary of the two new modes. What you can do, remember, you can still ladder in both. You can still do casual in both. Remember that Arena and Adventures are Wild, so you can just build decks with everything. No cards are getting removed. There's no sort of banning or removal of any cards. But if you want to play in competitive tournaments or competitive formats outside of ladder, So if you go and play in other tournaments, then Standard is going to be the format of choice. So Standard is kind of the competitive format, as it were. But you can still ladder in your game in both Standard and Wild. And you can still Legend, you can still do pretty much everything quests you would do normally. So no reason to despair. And indeed, an interesting opportunity if you like trying the game in a new and different way to try out Standard and give yourself a bit of a different challenge, which is very, very cool. Right, the next cool news, deck slots. the meme that has been alive for so long. You asked, we all asked, Blizzard listened, and deck slots are coming. Now, you're going to get double the deck slots if you've unlocked all 9 heroes. So you need to unlock all 9 heroes, and let's be honest, most people when they start the game unlock all 9 heroes. You can get 18 deck slots rather than 9. Yay! So that's a small little change, which is pretty cool. So there you go. There is your new deck slots. You can have a look at the scroller. You can scroll up and down, which is very, very cool. And you can have all of your new deck slots in the collection manager, which is most awesome. Blizzard have confirmed on Twitter, by the way, that they anticipate deck slots releasing before Standard mode and the new spring expansion. So we should hopefully see deck slots sometime between now and Standard, or now and the new expansion. So hopefully we can have a little play, enjoy the new deck slots for a while. So pretty straightforward news, pretty good news. But coming just quickly back on, I've slightly done this out of order, coming back to the Brain Fade. Coming back to Standard mode. When Standard mode arrives, and it's going to arrive this spring, you're going to be able to build Standard decks using the following sets. Now, PG's already mentioned it in chat, but it's going to be Basic, Classic, Blackrock Mountain, the Grand Tournament, the League of Explorers, and the Spring 2016 expansion. So this year's expansions and the last year's expansions, and indeed Adventures. Now, you're going to notice that there's no Curse of Naxxramas and no Goblins versus Gnomes. So that's no Curse of Naxxramas in Standard, and no Goblins versus Gnomes. That cuts out a whole bunch of cards that are considered to be key in a lot of decks at the moment. So I'm personally really, really excited by this, because it gives you opportunities to craft new decks, look at the old card pool, and then remember we've got a new expansion or new cards coming as well this spring. So there's going to be opportunity to bring in new cards. So it's just going to refresh, revitalise Hearthstone a whole bunch in the new Standard format. So I'm really looking forward to Standard. I quite like trying to play competitively, not the best, but it'll be a nice, interesting, and new mode. It is going to... PG says it's going to kill decks. It's no Dr. Boom. Yep, you're quite right. No Dr. Boom. If you're tuned in live, after this, we're going to have a 10-15 minute thought about what this might mean for deck building. But in this news video, we're just going to sum it up. So if you're watching this video, you want to see our longer thoughts on what it might mean for deck building, have a look at the video. I'll link it below afterwards. So what are you going to do with no Curse of Naxxramas cards and no Goblins vs. Gnome cards? Well, that's going to change several decks at the moment. But remember, we've got new cards releasing as well. So that's going to change things too. Whenever the first new expansion is released every year, every set that wasn't released in the same year or the year prior will cycle out. So that's also when the new Standard year begins. So at the beginning of every year, you're going to have this changing of the guard. Everything is going to tweak and everything is going to move on. Each new Hearthstone year is symbolised by one of the zodiac constellations twinkling in Azeroth's night sky. The moment when a new constellation comes into alignment heralds the start of the year and a time of jubilation and raucous revelry wherever Hearthstone is plays. So this is... Say it all together now. Say it all together now. The year of the Kraken. The Kraken has been unleashed. Get ready to make some waves. Cool. The final bit of news that we're going to go on to for now, that the wonderful Hearthstone folks have announced, is Adventures. So what happens with Adventures? Adventures and expansions that aren't part of Standard are not going to be available for purchase anymore. So that includes Nax and Goblins versus Gnomes. So if you want any cards for wild play or to fill your collection, you're going to be able to craft them using dust. Even cards from Adventures that were previously not able to be crafted. So we're having a look at Poison Seeds here. This was a reward from Blackrock Mountain, from an adventure. And this will be craftable, for example. So if you actually want to be able to play the adventure, you need to buy it, and if you want to play the quest, you can buy it. But if you don't buy the adventure, you will still be able to actually craft the cards. So if you've missed out on an old expansion, so if you want to play wild mode, you want to get all of the old cards, you can just go ahead and craft those cards. An important part about adventures, if you purchase at least the first ring of an adventure before it's gone or before it's cycled, you can still finish buying it and playing the remaining wings. So let's say you want to play Nax. If you buy wing 1 with gold or with money, even when it cycles out and it can no longer be bought, you will be able to complete and play the rest. So that's no problem at all. So there you go, lots of interesting news there. What have we covered? We've covered the new standard mode, how that will be competitive, and the main key point, it's not going to include, from when it launches this spring, Goblins vs Gnomes or Curse of Naxxramas. The new standard mode is going to rotate out every year. There will be yearly named seasons or themes after mythological creatures. There's a new wild mode. Wild mode is effectively Hearthstone at the moment, and any card that's ever been available in the past or in future in Hearthstone will be available. This is arenas and adventures. You can play wild ladder, you can play standard ladder, you can do exactly the same things in each. You're not going to be prevented from doing one or the other. Standard is more of a competitive format if you're playing in tournaments or the Hearthstone Championship Series. So all of the official Hearthstone competitive play will be in standard, but you can just go ahead and use your card collection however you like in wild mode. That's no problem whatsoever, which is very, very cool. We then had a quick little look at some other changes. New deck slots, you're going to get 18 deck slots instead of 9, and that's hopefully coming out sometime before the new spring expansion and cards, and also before standard mode is launched. And then last but not least, there are going to be some tweaks to basic and classic card sets. So because standard mode is launching, Blizzard is also going to take the opportunity of the game changing with standard mode to tweak classic and basic cards. So some cards that you might have known that haven't changed much since the beginning of Hearthstone may well be getting changed. Pardon me, no class card is safe. That's not what you wanted to hear on microphone. So very, very interesting. What do you think of these new changes? Are you looking forward to standard mode? Are you just going to be playing in wild? Are you going to be trying to get involved in competitive? Do you think it's good for the game? I personally think it's going to be awesome because for the long-term health of the game, to make sure that new players can get involved without having to have huge back card collections, and to be able to give anyone who manages a game the opportunity to balance, tweak cards, and create and keep the game fresh and create sort of new dynamics and new kind of decks, archetypes, keep deck creativity alive is very, very important, and to prevent sort of creep of power, so that a game becomes unmanageable. It all feels pretty good, and hey, who doesn't want another 9 deck slots? But if you're on YouTube, let us know in the comments below what you think. What are you looking forward to? What are you not looking forward to? What kind of decks are you going to make without Goblins vs Gnomes and Naxxramas for standard? We're actually, in fact, live on stream at the moment, so do come join us sometime. Twitch.tv/Failcraftcast. You can see the URL in the left or right. If you're on Twitch, do subscribe to our YouTube. If you're on Twitch, don't go away. We're going to do a quick 10-15 minutes where we have a look at how decks could change for standard with no Curse of Nax or Goblins vs Gnomes. It's going to be very, very interesting. Do follow us on Twitter @FailcraftCasts, and last but not least, the website failcraft.org has not been updated in a while, but we'll try and get that going. And if you're on YouTube, we stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7:30 p.m. UK. Thanks very much for tuning in on YouTube. Do subscribe, let us know how we can improve the video, and do comment below with what you think of all this news. If you're on Twitch, don't go away. We're going to be doing a quick 10-15 minute wrap up in a second. Thanks very much for tuning in to Failcraft. I've been Hammy. Hopefully see you soon. Take it easy.